السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أهلا وسهلا في حلقة جديدة من بودكاست لنبدأ الحوار في الموسم الثالث اللي بنتكلم فيه عن الاستدامة. حلقتنا اليوم مختلفة لأنها باللغة الإنجليزية. ضيفتنا سارة تيمور باناجة، مؤسسة شركة أميوزد لإعادة بيع وشراء القطع الفاخرة. سارة عن طريق أميوزد بتدعم مستقبل الموضة، تخلي السلع الفاخرة ذات الجودة العالية في تداول مستمر في المجتمع، وبالتالي تساهم في أزياء واقتصاد أكثر استدامة. Welcome everyone to a new episode of Start the Conversation podcast. Today's episode is unusually in English. I think the content and the conversation is really important to have. So we decided to make an exception for our guest, Sara Teymoor Banaja. Very excited to have you here as a guest. Sara is the co-founder and CEO of Amused, and she will tell us about what is Amused and the vision behind it. Sara, welcome.
Hi, Manal. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for making this happen in English, so I can contribute some of the knowledge I've learned along my journey.
I think what you're doing is amazing, and it really need to spot it here. So I'm happy to do that. So Sara, let's begin with the opening question for the season. What is sustainability to you?
So I believe that sustainability is making decisions that have positive long-term effect on everything that is involving that situation. So it can be everything from the way you brush your teeth, turning off the tap while you're brushing your teeth. That would have such a long-lasting positive effect on the water consumption. Then it goes back to the animals and the marine life, and more water being available for other people to use just by that small action. So that's what I really see that sustainability is, a bit more of a mindful and conscious decision making.
That's a lovely way to put it. I like how you say simple things, because when people are talking about sustainability, the topic could be really big and people think that they can't do anything to contribute. Okay, Sara, let's talk about Amused. If you could let the listeners know what is Amused to begin with, and then how it came to life.
So I'm super excited to be speaking about Amused. It's become so important to me, and I didn't ever imagine that it would become what I started out with. So I'm so excited about the Amused journey and what it's creating here. Amused is a marketplace that connects buyers and sellers of authenticated, pre-owned luxury fashion. We are based in Saudi Arabia, and we're trying to connect the luxury collectors and owners of Saudi Arabia and offer their wardrobes to each other and the rest of the world. So we're really creating that circular economy. That's what Amused is today, and it started from my mother-in-law's living room as a side hustle while I was working in my previous company. And it was, I believe, probably around COVID where I saw a big change in the customers' behaviors. Suddenly we went into lockdown in Saudi Arabia, and in that first month that we went into lockdown, we received around 300 items who are at home, who have some time on their hands. Their thinking has become different. We all need that extra income, and we all need to get into a more conscious way of thinking when we get into these crisis situations. So in lockdown, that is something we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but it shows that people are adaptable to change and also their thinking changes. So that was a real proof of concept to me that this community is ready for change. They are thinking more sustainably. And this is where Amused is going. We've just finished our first round of funding from Sanabul 500 International VC. So we're really excited about the potential of the business and where we're going to go. We have lots of fun ideas.
Awesome. It sounds really great. And why reusing? That's, might some people might ask, what's the point in buying, luxury reused item? What this has to do with sustainability?
Yeah. So I think we had a really interesting conversation about this last time we spoke, right, Manal? And you even what was it that you said to me? You reused something very important, right? That it was like a wedding. Was it a wedding dress?
Yes, I've used my mother's wedding dress as my wedding dress. Yeah.
That's awesome. Like, why did you decide to do that? Why did you decide to reuse?
First of all, it was a gorgeous dress and it was right there, and my mom kept it in a really, really good shape. And I had no patience in going to find and design and go through the process of one. But that's something that I think culturally is not the norm. There is attachment to buying something new, wearing something new. And it used to happen, with an event. It's between, we have two Eids. I grew up with, you buy new clothes for Eid, and that's about it. And maybe later on in New Year. But now we live in a culture that it's constantly buying new. So I think what I really appreciate about Mused is bringing that idea of, like, buying a reused, wearing something reused, and especially when we're talking about luxury items where, they are expensive. Most of people don't wear it all the time. We don't wear our evening shoes every day, our evening gowns, or even the bags. And the rhythm of consumerism that we live in, that there's always something new to buy. So you buy a new thing not because you need it or you don't have an alternative. It's just because we want something that looks different.
Right. But who is telling us that it has to be new? Who is doing that? That's not just culture. That's we're kind of being brainwashed by those people, the marketing people behind these fast fashion companies. And you mentioned some really important points. So when you mentioned that you shared that lovely image and that memory of you wearing that wedding dress. So you said some interesting points. You said you didn't have the patience to go out there and have a look. And you mentioned that it was so beautiful, it was so well preserved, it was so well made. So here's a couple of points that, Amused is helping people to combat. So when you say you don't have the patience to go out there and look, and even maybe we don't have everything accessible to us, right? So Amused wants to make luxury accessible for everyone. Why do you need to get on a waiting list to have a handbag? We can give it to you within 48 hours. This is something that we're helping you with. Another thing that you mentioned very importantly is how well made the items were back with our mum's generation, with our grandmother's generation. Those are items that will still look great. But the way now manufacturing works is clothing production has doubled. It's 7 times cheaper to buy an item than it was like 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And garment usage, the amount of time you can actually wear something has decreased. So our items will never last for our kids, unfortunately, especially if you're buying from more fast fashion labels. And these are all things that are coming from, not society is being impacted by these marketing, very, very smart, well paid marketing people. There are each of these fast fashion companies telling us we always need to wear new, we always need to be wearing this or that, but really no one else is telling us that. So we are free to make our own choices of what is right for us, what we want to wear. So I think if you go into that sustainable kind of thought pattern and conscious decision making, if you actually do a bit of research about where you're buying your items, you probably wouldn't be buying them if you knew about the labor involved, the labor costs. Some garment workers only receive 0.6% of the price of the item. That is insane. Thousands of workers are dying because of the bad conditions that they're working in. So for me, it is definitely more about, I want to reuse. Why should I buy new? So all of our stuff, it's existing, it's out there. All of the things that we've ever bought or owned, they're still out there. So why do we need to buy new? Why don't we create that circular economy where it's sharing, where it's swapping, where it's buying something that is already there?
Spot on who is telling us what to buy and buying something new. That is 100% true, but unfortunately we live in a world that is driven by consumerism and media and bombardment of, you have to look this way, and especially for us women, you have to, this is fashionable, this is the trendy one, and there's a trend every month. And if you want to belong and look good, you have to keep up with that, and many go with that narrative unquestioning, because you want to look good and you want to be fashionable. But it just takes a minute of, or maybe a lot later, but more than a minute of, like, what do I want? What clothes do I like? Am I buying this bag because someone else said that it's a must have? This must have, thing in fashion magazine. I never made sense to me, but must have to whom? Not because some celebrity is wearing it that I means that I have to wear it. But that's a completely different narrative driven by consumerism. And I think we, little by little, we need to change that, make it personal. What do I want to wear? What is my style? Why am I doing this? And to bring some consciousness into our decisions and not be driven blind by it. And yeah, I do agree. Expensive luxury items are most of the time, not always, expensive and considered luxurious for a reason, that it lasts longer. And it's not something that would go bad in a day. But how many, and I'll bring that question to everyone listening, how many items do you have in your wardrobe that you haven't worn within a year, or it has been sitting there for I don't know how long, that it hasn't been touched and it's just taking up space? And it could be something valuable for someone else to have. And you bring a very good point about accessibility, because making beautiful things accessible to everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well that it's accessibility, also giving people another way to consume, bringing this secondhand, pre-owned kind of concept into our wardrobes, where we've had it with cars. We've bought secondhand cars. We've bought secondhand homes. There are so many things we've actually bought secondhand which we probably don't even think about, and we wouldn't consider twice. So why not with your wardrobe? And I think, again, going back to COVID, it really showed us that we can be resourceful. And just like you said, why have something sitting in your wardrobe taking up space and collecting dust, and you're not using it, whereas you can take the rewards that come from selling that item and use it as an investment. I really, really, truly believe luxury is one of the safest investments that we can make. Some of the prices of our items do go up, And you'll see that with watches. Rolexes are going up, by 50% almost, from a few years ago. Same with our handbags, that Chanel bags increase 20% every year. That's a lot. And if you're not using them, why not be smarter and think of your things as an investment and receive back, that amount that you paid for that item, and invest into something else for yourself. Maybe you want to give some to charity. That's great. Or maybe you want to take a course, or you would rather travel. I know that, my tastes have changed. They often change. Sometimes I want to spend on my wardrobe. Sometimes I want to go traveling and I want to have that extra resources to really enjoy my travels. So, this is giving you options and flexibility. Amuse is just there to empower you and to give you that platform where you can think a bit differently and be more resourceful and sustainable at the same time.
It's bringing the value and the meaning of this whole process, that it is helping, when you're buying reused or pre-owned, that you're not buying fast fashion or another, there's so many impacts of that on the environment, on the social structure. So there is a big value, and I think it's starting to be sort of a trend. We still live, I think, on the most part, by the trend wave. At least that would, the masses would go with a trend, and it becomes a trend of, this is a pre-owned one. I don't buy anything new. It could be seen as, you don't have enough money to buy something new, or, oh my goodness, you're selling your Chanel bag. Why are you in trouble and you need some money? And that is not socially acceptable. But to move from that kind of idea to, no, this is a cool thing and I'm doing actually something good in the world. I think that is making it accessible for everyone to be sustainable without compromising their own sense of fashion and style. And we could all do things. Not everyone can be a minimalist and wear the same color T-shirt.
We don't want to be going down Mark Zuckerberg territory, right? Like, we don't want to be dressing like him.
No, I think that you mentioned that, when we had the conversation before we record, is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, that was where you kind of came from, that you do like fashion, and that is shifting to this territory of buying used because it's much more. And I remember you saying it's much more fun. It's more exciting. Can you, walk us by how you used to do things, and how are you doing it right now when it comes to fashion and being trendy?
Yeah, we did. We had a good conversation on this, and the idea of buying pre-used and pre-loved, second-hand, vintage is something that I've done all my life. Growing up in the UK, you see a vintage shop, a second-hand shop, a charity shop in every single street. And it was very like much of a community collaborative feeling when you get involved and you go to those shops. They're usually like local business owners, and you see your community members going to those shops. They're giving away their, unused, unwanted items, and then you're getting them back and you're buying them, or you're seeing them go through that circular kind of economy throughout your community in the UK, which is really beautiful. It's very rewarding to sell or buy something that is pre-used. And it's very, very normalized there. And there's, lots of regulations around it of protection for the buyers, protection for the sellers, making sure the items are real if you're buying luxury, or they're to a certain quality. If you're even buying from a charity shop, they've been cleaned, they've been checked for holes and this and that. So you're not just buying garbage or you're not buying rags, you're actually buying good quality items. And usually those proceeds go to charity or some other kind of charitable foundation. So you do really feel rewarded. And for example, growing up with my mum, she definitely brought this value to me. My mum would always be more resourceful in certain areas in our life so that we could then go on great holidays or have a great education. She would rather invest in those areas. You know, as a single mother, she had to prioritize how we were spending. So she would, you know, my school uniform, we would go to every year, they would have like a second-hand sale, and I would just buy my skirts or, you know, those kind of things from the second-hand practices that, you know, my school even taught me. So imagine from every level of society, you're really getting exposed to that idea of buying something secondhand, and there is no stigma at all attached around it. And I think my mum instilled me with a lot of confidence in that as well. So I think making sure you're confident in yourself and your values, you'll never be able to get brainwashed by maybe the consumer marketing that happens. So that's really how I grew up, and I really see it as a treasure hunt. I go onto those marketplaces or I have my own wish list for Amused, you know, and there's so many great tools which you can use to help you with buying those things. Like in Saudi Arabia, we have buy now, pay later schemes that have just started, which really supports the community, you know, in terms of the way that they're spending. So they can split their payments, it becomes more affordable. You know, you can buy better items that last you longer. So, you know, I always buy kind of as I need. I have my list that I need this and this and this, and then I'll search for it, see where I can find the best price, the best condition. Now with the wonders of the internet and e-commerce, you know, you can get that item from anywhere that you're particularly looking for it. And I really love vintage. I really find it hard to now buy things new, honestly. Probably gym wear. I'm staying on buying new for now, but I'm sure there's going to be great concepts out there to support that, even that side of things becoming more sustainable. But definitely, it's all in your hands, and it is a treasure hunt. And you can go, you can bargain. Being a Middle Easterner, bargaining is definitely in my DNA. Like I can't help myself. Like a bargain with the person selling the item and barter with them. It's a fun process, honestly, and it becomes a lot more rewarding than buying something and just getting in your hand instantly. You know, there's that journey of the pre-loved or buying vintage that is so fun and part of the process, which adds to the value of the item, I believe.
Seems like it is a thread in your life. It's not something that is, you know, it's a new skill or something that you learn. And I'm glad that you're bringing that passion into Saudi, where it's not really that common to buy. And there isn't still a lot of places for buying pre-owned vintage places. It's directed towards charity and not to anyone to go and shop from. If you could share a little bit of what your plans or what would you like to see Amused as a company becoming in Saudi, and what would you like to see happen in all cities around Saudi and the Arab world?
Every day my vision for Amuse changes a little bit in terms of I get inspired by something and I see the potential and I see opportunities all the time, and technology is changing so much every day, and I think that's a really important part to any sustainable business these days, or anything you're doing, is really using, you know, technology to help you with creating sustainability in your life. And that's something I really want to focus on in Amuse, getting so we use artificial intelligence to authenticate our items. I really want to help the customers feel so comfortable with with what they're buying and us as a business, and minimizing anything that would get in the way of the experience that they can have and the joy of buying pre-use. So I think, making sure a really good we have good technology systems team to support that is very important. And I still believe that we are an experiment at this point, Amuse. Although we are, a running company, we're still experimenting with everything. Every day I'm speaking to my customers. I want to understand them. I want to understand what they need, what's their pain points, and build a product around them. So it's every day it's changing. Every day we're testing things, experimenting, and that's the fun of a startup, really. I never expected what I've seen Amused achieve, how proud people are to be buying pre-used. They send us their pictures wearing their items, and they tell me, how confident the bag made them feel, or how that they would never imagine this is what pre-loved can look and feel like when they get that item, and how proud they are. So I think it's just a lot more education that needs to go out there, and Fashion Commission has been doing a great job here in Saudi Arabia. The Fashion Commission is the arm of one of the arms of the Ministry of Culture, supporting the evolution and the innovation of the fashion industry here in Saudi Arabia. So we had a workshop with them the other day, and it was talking about how we can improve regulations and how we can get more education out there for people. So I think continuing to do things like this, and I think it's really great when the governments get involved, because it has to come from that level down to really influence and impact a population. And again, how I saw this from school, or I saw this from the beginning of my life, like if you kind of have this from the beginning at schools, educating people, getting them involved in recycling projects, these kinds of things at a grassroots level, I think you can have massive changes. And I think we see that with Gen Z already. And, 70% of the population of Saudi Arabia is below the age of 30, I think. So there's a lot of energy here, with that kind of age of the population. They are all interested in trying new things. They've seen, they're exposed to social media, so they want those trends and they want to be doing this and that. And they're a lot more carefree. They're a lot more experimenting than we were. There's a lot less fear, I think, in trying new things, because they're seeing it around them all the time, and how quickly things are changing. They're a lot more educated. My team, some of them are Gen Zs, and they're so much more smarter than I was at their age. It's insane. And they don't mind trying any new trends, So I think we have that population, and I think it's just about educating and getting the government involved, and that can bring so much change. I'm really excited to see where this population will be and the society will be, their mind frames in 10 years time, what that's going to look like. It's going to be amazing.
They have grown up in a world where sustainability is already an important, and really at this point it's not an option not to think of how to make things sustainable. I think also the value driven economy, or anything, they're more attracted to the value, to the meaning, what is their role in on a holistic level. I think our generation, we're still looking as how we can make things work for us. But I think with this new generation, and even I don't know what they call the generation after, which are still in their elementary school right now, the world would be completely different, and their values are very important. So yeah, and it's lovely, really great to hear that the government is doing something and thinking about. I see it as a no-brainer, but I know I don't speak for most of the society. But there is a huge value of for sellers and buyers you're doing a big part of this circular economy, that it's not just the big companies or even organization that can take role in the circular economy. And I think that's something, like many things when it comes to sustainability, things that have was the norm at some point in life, where the hand me downs from one sibling to another, or the cousins, or the people would share their resources much more easily than now, that you take you borrow things from your neighbor. I don't think it's still something that happens easily, that you would go and borrow something, but it's time for it to happen, and it makes honestly a lot of things easier, because you don't have to have keep everything. And of course, when it's you have more space in your wardrobe, it is much more relaxing, and you would have more peace in your mind.
Definitely. No, no, we have some really interesting customers. Some of the ladies, they're going through big changes in their lives, whether they're having babies or, going off to university, or the grandmothers. My favorite items come from the grandmothers. They keep them in the best condition. They're usually very unique, interesting pieces. And what's super interesting is the grandmother's pieces now, the Gen Zs buy them because they're vintage and they're in good condition and they're in good price. So the Gen Zs that is, either they're getting into work for the first time, they're earning their salaries for the first time, or maybe they're going to uni, this is a great and affordable way for them to buy the items that they want, right? And then the grandmothers, maybe they're not socializing as much, maybe, their interests have changed. So they get the money, and often what happens is a granddaughter is selling it on behalf of her grandmother. So then, it's really beautiful. Then the granddaughter is having like a bonding time with her grandmother by doing this activity. I've done it with my own mother-in-law. I helped her sell some of her pieces, and it was super bonding. And she would tell me about the memories she had with these pieces. What did she do? Where did she take it? The holidays, the big events she went to, and sounds so much more glamorous than my life, the start of her life. But it's really a lovely bonding experience, and a great way to make extra money for yourself, pocket money. You want to do something this summer. Now COVID is over. It's really, I love hearing these stories, and some of the women, after they come with me with suitcases of items, and then they tell me how they feel after. They said that they have created so much space, and some different things start to come into their lives once they've just cleared out their closets. I never really believed this, but I see the changes in the clients, so it's very interesting. It's very, very interesting.
Feels a lot lighter. I feel a lot lighter when I clear the clutter from my house, and the things that have been sitting there for so long and haven't been used. It just and for me, there's a value that there is someone else who would be able to use it, someone who wouldn't cannot afford something, and that's a mindset that is also, as we are a collective society, that it will help someone else wear something or anything, even if we think that, oh, this is not the greatest piece or doesn't look good or whatever. It will help someone else, so it bringing more connection within the society. It brings people together, and it has far more impact than we could even imagine. Sarah, I'm really excited about what you are doing in Amused, and I hope that it grows and it becomes something that it's a go-to. when anyone thinks about buying a luxury item, or they open their wardrobe and see that, oh, they haven't used this item in so long. What would be your message to anyone who is in that situation, whether wanting to sell their luxury item or wanting to buy pre-owned, pre-loved items?
Okay, first of all, you can come and give us a call. We would love to have a chat with anyone. We're still definitely very much on the education and awareness phase of this kind of concept. So, anyone who wants to find out more information, give us a call, WhatsApp, anything. But if I have some advice, always, if you're buying something, always buy something that you love. Like you have to you should really really love that item if you're going to buy it, and that goes with anything. If you truly love something, you know how you're going to use it much differently than if it's something that is a quick purchase just to fulfill an immediate need. No, it needs to be something that is going to really support you, and you're going to be thinking of it constantly, and it really needs to be something you love. If you're selling something, don't be shy, like don't be afraid. I sometimes people really hold on to things, and I know there is sentimental value in many of the items that we have, but I think if you try it out, you'll see another side to what that item can give you as well, right? And you never know, if you do sell that piece, even if you do have a bit of an attachment to it right now, you never know, that journey, it could lead you to something else, which it can create different memories for you. But definitely just, you can give us a call. There's so many articles out there. There's, great people that are also championing this kind of reusable style of consumption, and fashion designers, as Nasiba Hafez, she's doing an amazing job of making vintage look beautiful. There's people like North Hakim, who are, people who champion this kind of concept as well, Nirvana Abdul. And if our government is saying that it's like the right thing to do, it's the future, and secondhand fashion is growing faster than fast fashion right now. So if that's the trend, then there's something there, right? You need to go and explore it, and it is like a treasure hunt. I promise you. You just need to have a go, and you can have a lot of fun with it. Like if there's no joy, why do it? So definitely there's a lot of joy with buying pre-used.
That's awesome. And I've recently have seen some brands on their website. They're selling new items, and they're selling used and pre-owned items of their brand. So that even, the companies, fashion brands that are paying attention to that, they can resell their own stuff. And which is quite amazing. That for me, that gives me confidence in this brand, and it's, they're standing with and executing sustainability in their own thing. Sarah, thank you so much. I hope many people reach out, and we could at least to a degree help people change their buying habits or their views about selling or buying their items from Amused or any. Hopefully we find many, many other organization companies doing the same thing. Thank you so much for contributing to sustainability in a way that is sustainable to you.
Thank you so much for having me, Manal, and for shedding your light on this topic. It's really important, and I think the more we talk about things, the more it's out there, and the more we're creating different thoughts for people. So it's very important to have these conversations, and I look forward to welcoming you to the Amused community soon. I hope, Manal. Would love to have you as an ambassador for the brand.